Hey guys, welcome back. This is Commander Insight Channel coming at you again with another updated deck tech. This is going to be my Sythis Harvest Hand. For those who have never seen this commander before, this is an enchantment commander. They call it the Enchantress deck. And basically all it does is cast enchantment and draw cards and gain life. But today I'm going to be going into the deck tech, going into some of the cards in the deck, going through the 99, and part of my channel with the Commander Insight is I like to go a little bit more in depth and explain certain cards and why they're in the deck, how they combo off, kind of how they work together and synergize, maybe some do's and don'ts, pros and cons of the deck. I've played the deck enough to know kind of how it runs and whatnot, so this is not just going to be a card list. If you are looking for just a card list of the deck, you can check out the Moxfield link in the description of the video. It's kind of an ever-living deck that kind of changes. So this deck tech is going to be as of basically end of March, beginning of April 2024, right after the Fallout series came out. There were a couple new enchantment cards that came out that we put in the deck to help kind of win better. And, I really like the Fallout series. I thought it came at a good timing. I'd been playing the deck one way and kind of just changed it up to take more of an aura approach. So there's a lot more auras in the deck than there used to be. And let's just kind of go into some of the pros and cons of the commander herself. So with Sythis, she's in the Selesnya colors, green and white. It's not really a downside, but the downside is that there's another commander out there that is in Bant, which is green, white, and blue. That is Tsuvasa. That was in one of the earlier pre-cons from years ago. But I think Sythis is better. Being in the Selesnya colors, you're limited because you don't have blue, but there's still tons and plenty of good colors of enchantments. But the fact that you're not in blue, you don't have as much draw, except your commander costs only 2 here, and she draws for every enchantment you play. So the difference between her and like a Tsuvasa is Tsuvasa only draws you 1 card every time you cast your first enchantment only, whereas she basically has all your enchantments count as cantrips. So every time you cast an enchantment, regardless if it gets countered, you draw a card and gain a life. So that's going to be huge in the deck. It's going to be basically our main draw engine. It's going to be sometimes our only draw engine, but that's all you really need. So a couple pros with her is that she's extremely cheap. So she costs just a green and a white. 2 CMC commanders are great because they come out real early. That could be a con in the sense that a lot of times your opponents might use removal early on it, and then it costs 4 and then 6, but it doesn't really usually affect things. She's not that threatening as when she comes out. She gets threatening in the late game. She can be very fast. You can make a lot of mana quick, just especially with some of the auras that we run for enchanting lands, and then just some of the lands that we run and everything. So we're going to be kind of going into that. Some of probably the biggest con is that the deck is kind of reliant on her. Not entirely, but if she dies or if she's not on the field and you're casting enchantments, they're not really replacing themselves, and so your hand is going to run out of gas relatively quickly. So with that being said, we obviously want her on the field. We want to have some backup draw effects similar to hers, so we do run some redundant effects in that regard. But overall, it's going to be basically cast enchantments, draw cards, gain some life, and then, just kind of go and win through a couple different win cons. So the main win con is going to be her swinging out for commander damage. It's kind of a Voltron type deck, so there is a lot of auras in the deck that can help her do that pump her power and toughness. So with that, we had to run some recursion of the auras. We had to run some search. Another way we win is through token generation. We have some cards that create angels. So you can kind of spam tokens and then swing out that way. And then there is one just straight up win card with Approach of the Second Sun, which I'll get into. But, overall, people will like this deck if you like to, kind of start off slow and then kind of win late game. It's not necessarily a fast deck in the sense where it can win fast, but it is fast in the sense that it can make mana pretty well. Your enchantments are typically harmless until there's too many of them for your opponents to really deal with. Enchantments are kind of hard to deal with overall. Like, there's not a lot of stuff that removes enchantments. There's probably the biggest con of the deck is that if there is mass enchantment wipe, that's pretty much how to ruin the deck. Overall, I think that this deck is really fun. It's a great deck. its speed can kind of be matched for the table. So if you need it to be fast, if you need it to be powerful, it can be. Or if you're playing with like lower power level or just some guys that are just kind of hanging around, and you can just cast enchantments, draw cards, and not really do much until you're ready to do much. So it's kind of been able to play at both speeds, which is why I like the deck. It's versatile in that regard. So without further ado, we're going to get into the deck tech, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the reasons why certain cards are in the deck. So before I get directly in the deck tech, I wanted to go over real quick just a couple 2-card combo, infinite combos for those who enjoy that type of gameplay. I don't personally run these combos just because I think that they're a little too good, if that makes sense, power level wise. But I just wanted to kind of mention them as honorable mentions, that if you are looking to make the deck better than mine or faster than mine, or you're just very much into that and trying to make it more competitive, these are some combos that you can run. So the first one is going to be Heliad Suncrown and Walking Ballista. This is an instant win, basically, if you have both of them on the field. So with Heliad Suncrown, basically his effect is going to be that whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So with Walking Ballista out, basically you use Heliad's second ability to give it lifelink, and then you start pinging people down. When you ping someone, they lose a life because they lost a life, and it has lifelink, you gain a life, and you basically get a +1/+1 counter, and you can remove the +1/+1. So you just combo out. I do run Heliad in the deck, but I don't run Walking Ballista, mainly because it's an artifact. And we do have artifacts. We do run other enchantments that shut down artifacts. So that'd be a little bit of a non-bow, but also, you know, I'm running an enchantment deck and I don't want to win with an artifact. So just kind of a preference there, but that's a great 2-card combo for you. Another great one is Siona, Captain of the Pyleus, and then Shielded by Faith. So with Siona, what she says is that when it comes out, you look at the top 7, you can reveal an aura, put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom. That's not the cool part, but it can get you an aura. But whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a creature you control, you create a 1/1 white human soldier. And so what you do is you basically attach Shielded by Faith to her. And what Shielded by Faith says is target creature is indestructible, which is nice, but not relevant to the combo. But whenever it becomes attached to a creature, whenever a creature comes out, you can attach Shielded by Faith to the creature. So essentially you cast Shielded by Faith on Siona. Her effect will trigger and make a 1/1 soldier. Because a creature entered, Shielded by Faith will attach to the 1/1 soldier. That will trigger Siona again to make another 1/1 soldier. And then Shielded by Faith will switch over to that. And essentially it gives you as many tokens as you possibly could want. So you can combo that with things like Cather's Crusade for, you know, making them huge. Or you could just go super wide with it and, you know, Ashnod's Altar, whatever you want to do. So just a way to make infinite tokens. And then the last 2-card combo that you can run, I run half of it. It's going to be Sanctum Weaver and then the Gauntlets of Light. What this does is it gives you infinite mana. As long as you have enough, you can make enough mana with Sanctum Weaver. So you basically need, I think, 4 enchantments on the battlefield, and then Gauntlets of Light and Sanctum Weaver already count for 2 of them. So you basically need 2 other enchantments, and you equip it to Sanctum Weaver. And then what happens is you tap Sanctum Weaver for any amount of mana that, or for, you know, at least 4 mana of one color. And then you use Gauntlet of Light to essentially untap with 3 mana. So you can essentially keep doing that, and as long as you net 1 positive, you can keep doing that over and over again. You tap and untap and basically make infinite mana that then you can use however you want. So those are just a couple card combos that I like to not run just because it's you know, not fun. You do it once, you do it twice, it becomes kind of mundane and it makes the deck stale quick. Again, unless you're into that stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's a higher level, higher playing level. And if the table's fine with it and you're cool with it, go for it. It's really strong. All right, so let's get right into the 99. I'm going to try and break these down by category. The first one that I'm going to go through is the, I guess, mana ramp. Just cards that make us a lot of mana. That's partially how the deck can be as fast as it is. So we're going to start off with a fake card, Seraph Sanctum. This is an amazing card for any enchantment deck, especially this one. So it basically taps it, and you add white for each enchantment you control. So this cut right off the bat is just going to be amazing. You know, if you don't have one, this is obviously a proxy. You know, if this is this can be taken out if you're trying to lower the power level. But this card was just too good to not put include. It gave me so much mana. You tap it for like 9 mana sometimes, or 10, 20, whatever. So The only artifact that I run in the entire deck is a Soul Ring. We do run a couple cards that shut off artifacts, so you know it's a little bit of a non-bow, but it's one card and it's a Soul Ring. If you get it early, it helps you get stuff out quicker, so I run that. Then we run Exploration. This is going to help you play more than one land per turn, so you're going to ramp in that regard. We play a Utopia Sprawl, so you enchant a forest, and then when it comes out, you choose a color, and then when you tap the land, it adds one of every color, so you can basically say white, and now you have a land that taps for green and white. Pretty good early on. Abundant Growth, very similar, but enters the battlefield, you draw a card, so with your commander out, you're going to draw 2, and then you add one of any color. Fertile Ground, similar thing, enters the battlefield. When the land is tapped, you add another additional mana of whatever you choose, so those help a lot. We run a Jukai Naturalist. I really like this card, one, because it's a creature so it can block. It's an enchantment, so you're going to trigger your commander, but also has lifelink, so if you'd ever need to put auras on it to beef it up to gain life, you can do that. And then enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so that does come in handy. That's actually really good ramp when you're casting really cheap spells, because let's say you're casting a bunch of 2 CMCs that are 1 colorless and then a green, or 1 colorless and a white. Well, the fact that you can get rid of that 1 colorless means you can essentially cast double the amount that you would have been able to do. So it's kind of a great ramp card, because the more cards you can cast, the better it becomes. We run a Kalani Heart Expedition, so every time you play a land, you put a counter on it. After 3 counters, you sacrifice it to go get 2 more lands. We run a Sanctum Weaver, probably one of the better mana generators in the deck. When you tap it, it adds X in any 1 color, where X is the number of enchantments. So it's very similar to Serra Sanctum, except it can add green if you needed to. Overgrowth, enchant land, adds an additional 2 green. We run a Bear Umbra. This kind of doubles as a protection as well because of totem armor, but the main reason it's in the deck is because when you attack with the enchanted creature, you untap all your lands. So you essentially get double the amount of mana. You cast all your spells in the first main phase. You know, equip this to your commander or whoever, you attack with it, and then you untap all your lands for the second main phase to cast basically another turn's worth of mana. And then if for whatever reason your commander were to die, which can happen, this can die instead. We run a Leyline Immersion. This is good for kind of the early game. It replaces itself with mana right away, and actually it nets you 1, but you have to equip it to a legendary creature. We run maybe 4 or 5. Your commander is 1, so you can put on the commander. It gives it Ward 2, which is great. But then you tap to add 5 mana in any combination of colors, so any combination of green or white that you might need, but you can only use it to cast spells, which isn't bad. You know, it just basically means you can't use it for abilities. So like something like Gauntlets of Light, you couldn't use that to untap. You know, you couldn't have this and Gauntlets of Light if you were running that, on the same creature, and then just basically make an infinite combo that way. I'm glad, because that'd be too easy. But this is great, especially in the early game for that. And the last card we run for ramp is a Mirari's Wake. We don't really care about the +1/+1, although it comes in handy. But every time you tap a land for mana, you basically get an additional land, or additional mana of that land. Next category set we're going to go through are the search cards and also the draw cards of the deck. So we run both. Search cards, just tutors, just help make things go a little faster and get what you need when you need it. So we run a Crop Rotation. There are a couple utility lands that we run, but mainly you get the Serra Sanctum. If you already have that, there's a couple other cards like Reliquary Tower for the infinite hand size, because you do draw a lot. So there's a bunch of them like that. Probably the best search card of the deck is Enlightened Tutor. You go get any enchantment you need for 1 mana, put it on top of your library. Also, it's instant speed. We run a Green Sun Zenith. There's not a lot of creatures in the deck, but most of them are green, so you can go and get them for that. There's some utility creatures that, sometimes you really need it, and so this card helps you go get that. We run an Open the Armory, basically for the aura effect. You can go search for an aura for 2 mana. Like I said, we've kind of transitioned more to an aura deck, so this is great to be able to find beneficial auras for our creatures, or sync target removal against our opponents, either one. Then we run an Idyllic Tutor. This is going to essentially let you search for any enchantment, put it right to your hand, so that's great. And that's it for the search cards right now. So there's not a ton. There's definitely more in the game if you wanted to run more. But I don't really think the deck needs it, because you don't go for a specific combo, at least in this build. So moving into the draw engine, this doesn't actually help you draw any cards, but it does let you keep your hand when you do draw a lot of cards, so I include it in the draw. So Reliquary Tower, you have the maximum hand size, and then we run a Secluded Step and a Tranquil Thicket. Their lands, obviously, you can put them in tapped if you need it, but a lot of times I'm using the cycle effect to draw, and then or discard it and draw it. Moving into Miri's Guile, again, technically not a draw, but it lets you rearrange the top 3 so that you can get what you need. So that I would kind of consider that card advantage in a way. So I guess it's draw. We run a Flickering Ward and a Whipso Cloak. These essentially both do the same thing, just different colors. So I would say Flickering Ward can double up as a protection spell as well, which is really nice. So when you play it, you choose a color, and then the enchanted creature gains protection of that color. And then you can pay a white to return to its owner's hand. So 2 things. 1, this is great for just bouncing. You keep bouncing this enchantment, so you pay a white, draw a card, gain a life. Return it to the hand, cast it again, draw a card, gain a life. So if you make a lot of white mana, you can just keep bouncing this back and forth. Another fun thing to note, just so you guys know, I looked this up. If you do choose white, your other white enchantments will drop off, but Flickering Ward will stay on. So you can choose white and keep protection from white on the field to your commander. You just obviously can't equip other enchantments. So I guess I don't really fully know the ruling, but I've looked it up on it's been confirmed with Magic players, and it's on the internet if you need it. But basically, if you were to choose white and equip it to Sythis, Flickering Ward will not kill itself because of the protection from white. So just to know. And then Whipso Cloak is essentially the same thing with green. So if you have a lot of green mana, you can bounce it back and forth, and this lets whatever creature you equip it to block as though it had flying. So it essentially gives it reach, I guess. It's not the greatest thing, but we use it a lot for the draw. And then going into Sylvan Library, another great card. You draw 3, you can put up to 2 back, or you can take 8 life or 4 life. We do gain a lot of life, so it's cool to pay that. You don't feel as bad paying it. We run a non-enchantment, but it's a Sythis Champion. This card can get out of control real fast. Every time an enchantment comes out, you put a +1/+1 counter on him, and then you draw a card. So this is another card that can get really big real fast. And then if you throw in some of your auras on it, it can get even bigger. I typically save the auras for the commander because you can get through with 21 damage versus trying to get 40 or whatever. But just another really great card. And then we run basically our commander's effect. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. Or Eidolon Blossoms, whenever another enchantment enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So these 2 will trigger regardless of how the enchantment came out, whether you cast it or it comes out another way. These 2 have to be cast. So if they come out through other ways that we have of bringing out enchantments without casting them, they won't trigger that, just to be aware of that. But that's it for the draw. Like I said, you don't really need a ton of draw because your commander, which should be out essentially minimum turn 2. So the next category is stacks. Now, we don't run a ton of stacks cards, but we do run some, and the reason for it is because the ones that we do run really help us and really hurt our opponents. You can shut down aggro decks. You can shut down artifact decks, right? So I think stacks is necessary. It kind of keeps combo players and aggro players in check. So we don't run a ton, but let's kind of get into what we do run. We run Authority of the Council. It's 1 mana. Creatures your opponents control enter tapped, and then when they do, you gain a life. So it does 2 things. It stops aggro decks because, they want to bring out 1,000 creatures as fast as they can and then swing with them. But if they come out tapped, then they can't. But then also you're going to gain a life from each of those. And so it's going to help keep your life at a healthy higher than others, which might actually be a bad thing if you have too much life. People might start just swinging at you because you have too much life. But again, even if they do, once you get down to a normal life, they'll stop again. But, this is a great way to generate life as well. And we also run a Blind Obedience. I think this is a better of the 2 between this and Authority. But I really like Blind Obedience because it also shuts down artifacts. So it does have Extort, which we don't use too often, but if you have extra mana, it's great to be able to cast an enchantment, draw a card, gain a life, and then Extort. And then your opponents all lose 1 and you gain an additional 3. That could be nice. But your artifacts and creatures enter tapped. So Mana Rocks, Soul Ring, Mana Crypt, things like that, they enter tapped. Treasures, that's a huge one. All these cards are making treasure effects. Those treasures are coming in tapped, which means that they can't use them the turn that they were planning on it, which sets them a turn behind, which is great for you. So I love this card as well. And then kind of getting into some of the creatures that are stacks, we do a Doorkeeper Thrall. So it's got flash, so sometimes you can save it in your hand until you absolutely need to in response to an effect. It's a 1/2 with flying. Artifacts and creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. I'm not even going to start to begin to see how much that covers and how much that can shut down, but especially the creatures. So basically, ETBs are shut down. Things that would trigger when a creature comes out get shut down. We don't run anything like that, and it doesn't hurt our deck at all. We don't even run artifacts. Moving into some more stacks, we run a Collector Oaf. That's how I think you pronounce it, Oaf, Oofe, I don't know. But activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. So this shuts down pretty much most artifacts. The only things that you can use artifacts right now with this out is triggered abilities, which there aren't a ton. There are some that get around this, but you know, a lot of the artifacts that your opponents are going to be running, like Mana Rocks, Soul Ring, Mana Crypt again, they can't even activate them. Doesn't matter if it comes untapped and then they untap it next turn. Like if you have a blind obedience out, they just can't tap it. Same with treasures. Treasures are activated effects. You have to tap it, sacrifice it. That's activated. So it shuts down treasures. It shuts down Mana Rocks. It shuts down artifact decks in general. Most of the stuff that your opponents run that are artifacts will do that. Stony Silence, another similar, basically on enchantment form, white. You know, another great card. And then the last one you run is Aura of Silence. So this poses as both a stacks card and a, I guess, target removal. I typically leave it on the field as often as I can. So artifacts and enchantment spells your opponents cast cost 2 more to cast, which will come in handy. Even if they're not running artifact and enchantment decks, they probably have artifacts and enchantments in their deck, and those usually are good enough that they want to cast them, you know, relatively early. So this puts an extra 2-turn clock on them where they, you know, they have to dump an extra 2 mana for each one. So Soul Ring is no longer 1 mana for 2, it's 3 mana for 2. Mana Crypt costs 2 mana for 2. You know, then it's actually even, probably a fair card now, right? So a lot of those Mana Rocks, a lot of the, you know, stuff that they cast late game that's going to really affect them, it's going to slow them down. And by slowing opponents down, you automatically get faster. So that's why I run a little bit of a stacks package. We don't go crazy with it, but I think what we have is a decent amount. We run cards that are to protect our board, protect our permanents, protect our creatures, whatever it may be. Very necessary because as you start to build, people are going to try and stop you, obviously. You know, they're going to go after your commander. If you have a Voltron commander, you're putting auras on them. It's going to kind of be a big red flag to, hey, kill me, you know, hey, exile me if you can, because you have indestructible, but you can still be exiled, stuff like that. So we run a Rebuff the Wicked. This is a great card because opponents don't think that you'll be running a counterspell, right? Green-white doesn't have very many counterspells, if any, you know, and if they aren't great. So this one's great for protection because you can counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. So anything that would target anything you control, you just counter it for 1 white. I think that's great. We run an aura called Hyena Umbra. The enchanted creature gets +1/+1 of first strike, which isn't bad. The first strike is cool. The +1/+1 doesn't really do much, especially if it's on your commander. You're not really getting to 21 that way. But it does have totem armor. So for 1 mana, you have totem armor. So it's like a little extra effect for your commander. If it would die from a board wipe or from something else, you can destroy this instead. We run a Sterling Grove. This poses as a search card as well as protection. It's protection that I would say is temporary. You don't want to necessarily leave this on the field. So what this does is it gives all enchantments you control Shroud. So what Shroud is they can't be targets of any spell or ability, whether it's your opponent or your own. The fact that it can't be enchantments can't be the targets of things you own really kind of hurt you because you can't equip auras to anything. You can't target anything for beneficial effects that you would want. So this should not stay on the battlefield for the entire game unless you already have everything you need out, and then it's a great 2 mana protection card. So the fact that it has the ability to get rid of itself and search a card is why this card is so good and it's in the deck. There's another card, it's called like Greater Oromancy. I don't run that at all. I recommend you don't run that because there's really no way to kill it once you bring it out, and you can actually screw yourself. It's a big non-bow if you run that. It's cost the same. It's 1 white and a colorless, and essentially has the same effect, except it doesn't get rid of itself. So the fact that you can pay 1 mana here, sacrifice Sterling Grove to go search your library for an enchantment, put it on top, that could be done at instant speed as well. That helps out a lot. So it could be like, you need to build up your board, you need to get some better stuff. So in the meantime, let's protect our enchantments until we can't make that move. So that's why I love that so much. We run a Destiny Spinner. Creatures and enchantment spells you control, they can't be countered. So obviously, if you're playing blue decks, you're gonna you're gonna run this. If you run this deck without this card, you're gonna play against enough blue decks that counter your stuff that you're like, I'm just gonna put this in and just forget about it. It's also a nice mana sink because sometimes you generate a lot of mana and don't always have enough gas in your hand to keep casting to expend all the mana. So the second effect of this is you can target land and it becomes a XX elemental creature with trample and haste, where X is the number of enchantments you control. So, you got 11 enchantments, you pay 4 mana, and now you have a land that's an 11/11 with trample and haste. So that can help out a lot. You can do it multiple times, and then it's just till the end of the turn, and then it becomes a land again. So, that's really nice as well. I was reading the card as I said that to make sure it was still end of turn. It is. So, moving to the next one. Shield of the Oversoul. I really like this card. I think this is overlooked as well. So you enchant a creature, and as long as the enchanted creature is green, it gets +1/+1 and indestructible. As long as it's white, it gets +1/+1 and flying. So if you attach this to your commander, it's now going to be, it's going to get +2/+2 and get flying and indestructible. It's going to get both of the effects, which is phenomenal. Having obviously indestructible is amazing, but then having flying is great because there's so many things that are on the ground that can no longer block now. And giving your commander flying after you've beefed it up, that's great. So, I really like that. The indestructible part is probably the main reason it's in the deck, though. Another form of protection is kind of, stopping your opponents from attacking you. So we use Ghostly Prison. Your opponents have to pay 2 additional mana for every creature they want to attack you with. This just incentivizes them to attack other opponents. So this is a little bit of that pillow fort. So if you want to get this card is one of the cards that I would search out. If I needed it early or whatever, or if someone has an aggro deck and I can't get anything, they have 10 little 1/1s on the board. They don't have 20 mana to pay to swing at you. They'd rather swing at someone else first and deal with you later. So this card really helps to kind of steer stuff away from you. Another form of it, which is even better, is Sphere of Safety. So same exact effect, except they have to pay X, where X is the number of enchantments you control. So it can get to the point where they literally can't pay to attack you with anything. Again, 11 enchantments, 12, 13 enchantments. That's not uncommon in your end game. So, 13 mana for every creature that wants to attack you. You're basically not attackable. One of my favorite protection spells, we run Privileged Position. Pretty simple text. Other permanents you control have hexproof. So this is a great card. I actually will sometimes search this card out with the Sterling Grove. So if you have a Sterling Grove out, right, and then you're ready to sack it, I'll sacrifice it and go get a Privileged Position so that I can cast it the following turn and bring it right out. And it's like, I had Shroud, and then I was vulnerable for a second, and now I'm back to hexproof. If you have both out, it's kind of ridiculous too. You don't really need both, but, Privileged Position is the only thing that does not have hexproof from its own effect. So if they pop Privileged Position, then that's the only way to basically get rid of it, and that's because it's not targeted. And then the last card we run is a new Fallout card, Almost Perfect. You enchant creature, it has a base power and toughness of 9/10, and it gets indestructible. So this card is amazing because, yes, it's expensive, but it goes on your commander, and it gives your commander, makes him a 9/10 right away before any other buffs and bonuses are added. If you can get all the way to 21 and just swing them in one, kill them in one swing, that's great. This is going to help you get there because it gives you basically 8 additional power, just base, and then on top of that makes it indestructible. So that's it for the protection spells. The next section we're going to talk about is real quick. It's only 4 cards, and that's Recursion. Opponents are going to, target your commander when it doesn't have hexproof and kill it, and all your auras go to the graveyard or whatever. You're going to get cards in the graveyard. In a green-white deck, you don't really want to put too many cards focused on bringing them back, but it is important to bring some back because they're going to help you a lot. So the first one we run is Hall of Heliad's Generosity. It's a land card. It's going to tap for colorless when you don't need it, but then when you do, you're going to pay 1 and a white, and you're going to put target enchantment from your graveyard on top of your library. I like to do this in the upkeep right before I draw, just so that, people don't necessarily come in. Plus, a lot of times I use it for mana I use it for mana in my turn, and then something happens in my opponent's turn that I want to bring back. So in the upkeep, you untap, and then you can use it to basically draw the enchantment that you need. Another card we run is a Cosmic Rebirth. This is a kind of a newer one that came out kind of recently. I really like this. I had to take a second look at it. At first, I wasn't impressed with it until I really started using it. So it's a green, white, and a 1, and it's an instant. So that's the thing that I forget a lot, is it's an instant spell. You can use it at any point that you need to on opponent's turns as well. Choose target permanent in your graveyard. If it has a mana value of 3 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put it onto the battlefield, put it into your hand, and then you gain 3 life. So the gain 3 life is nice. It doesn't need to be on the card. If it wasn't, this would still be a great card. So that's just a little bit of a bonus. But basically, you don't have to choose a 3 CMC card for this to be good. This can bring back any permanent. It just has to go to your hand, which is still not a bad thing. But if you wanted it to, it can be an instant speed, basically cast something for 3 from your graveyard. So you can pull out some of those auras that stop your opponents. You can bring out some of those auras that buff your commander after you've blocked. You block with your commander, it's a 1/2. You bring out something that makes it a lot bigger. At instant speed. So it can be a combat trick. It can be protection. It can be a lot of different things when you need it to be. You can bring out the stacks cards. So it's really nice because, if you're waiting and anything that could be cast at instant speed on your opponent's turn, you can do in response to something. That just makes things so much better. Because I thought this was a sorcery when I first read it, and I was like, it's okay, but it's not great. So the fact that it's an instant, this card was great. Next one is Danitha, New Benalia's Light. Really love this card. It's got 2/2. It's got Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink. So right there, it's a great aura target. So a lot of these auras that we run, sometimes I'll run them on her. And what's nice is once during each of your turns, you can cast an aura or equipment spell from your graveyard. We don't run any equipment, so it's going to be all auras. But what's great about that is all of our auras that go to the graveyard, either because the creature died or totem armor or whatever, you could just bring them right back out. You can equip them to Danitha if she's the only creature. You can equip them to your commander. Or if it's something like Song of the Dryads or some of these other single target removal, you can just basically cast that right from your grave on a commander that someone else owns or on your opponent's stuff. So she's very versatile, and because she has all those keywords, she's a great card to put auras already on. So very nice card. And then last is our mass Recursion with Replenish. It's a little bit of an expensive card, so you don't have to run it if you don't have the, you can proxy it, or you can run another card called Resurgent Belief. It's kind of the same thing, but it's a suspend, so it takes 2 turns to do it, but it essentially does the same thing. So Resurgent Belief and Replenish are the same thing, just one is 2 turns slower with time counters. But bring back all enchantments you control. Just, you can't beat that. It's a great effect. And if they're auras, you can equip it to stuff. If they're not auras, remember you have a couple of those cards that draw from it too. Enchantment that just enters the battlefield. So they weren't cast, so your commander won't trigger, but there's other draw spells that would. All right, now we're going to get into the targeted removal and board wipes. I'll board wipe because we really only run one. This is important because as you're trying to basically just build your deck, being able to build your board, being able to stop opponents is crucial. Just for any deck was going to do that. So one of the cards we run is a Nature's Claim. Destroy target artifact enchantment, they gain 4 life. You want to run this. This is a great, just cheap removal. Same with a Swords to Plowshares. Those are the 2 instant spells removal we run. The rest are pretty much enchantments, because when you cast the enchantment, you also get more stuff from it. So the first one we run is a Lignify. Enchant creature is a 0/4 tree folk with no abilities. It still keeps the colors of the commander, so that if that matters for anything, just to remember, because there's other ones that change the color of it. But it basically stops becoming their commander or whatever creature, and now it's just a 0/4 tree folk. No abilities, which is the more important part. Probably the best one is Darksteel Mutation. This is that little bug. Whatever you put it on becomes a 0/1 bug with indestructible, and it loses all other abilities, card types, and creature types. So this card just shuts off a commander, shuts off a creature, and it becomes indestructible, so they can't block with it to kill it, which a lot of times they'll try to do with other ones. So this just basically makes it so if they don't remove this somehow, they can't use their commander the rest of the game. So a little bit of a cheap shot, but like, you know, I use it when I'm about to win. You know, you have a big creature on your board. I have 21 commander damage. I want to swing at you. Let's make you a 0/1, and now you can't do anything. Another similar card, Kenwith's Transformation. When it comes out, you actually get to draw a card. But same thing, enchanted creature loses all abilities, becomes a 3/3 elk. Then we run a Seal of Cleansing, so you can sack it to destroy target artifact or enchantment. We run a Seal of Primordium, which is the same thing, just the green version. We run another, probably second best aura in the deck. This might be the best one for target removal. Song of the Dryads. You can enchant any permanent, so probably that's the best because you have a huge, you know, a wide range of selection, and the enchanted permanent becomes a colorless forest. Even if they're playing a green deck, this is a huge blow because, you know, you can make their commander a forest, you can make their whatever ridiculous card that you need to get rid of a forest. And again, for those graveyard decks, for those decks that want to return things to hand, for the decks that want to exile, those decks that by you basically just keeping the permanent on the battlefield, they basically need a removal in order to use that permanent. Because a lot of times when, you know, I'd rather have that than just kill the creature because I could just bring the creature right back. Especially with the commander. You kill the commander, they just cast it right back if they have the mana. This shuts it down and doesn't let them recast it because it never left the field. It's just stuck as a forest. It's stuck as a bug. So those enchantments are really good. Then we run a Grasp of Fate. This is kind of a 3-for-1. So you cast it, and for each opponent, you exile up to one target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves the battlefield. So again, you know, if you want to hit commanders, they're probably not going to exile their commander, so it just removes the commander. Then the downside of this is if they do remove it, they get it back. So if you choose something with an ETB or something like that, they're going to get that effect. But again, it's situational and it's a great removal. And then the one board wipe we run is Winds of Wrath. So you destroy all creatures that aren't enchanted and they can't be regenerated. Regenerate's not really a thing. I don't see too many things that can regenerate, but the fact that you know, your commander's probably going to be enchanted. A couple of your other creatures, the very few that you do run that are not tokens, they'll probably be enchanted. So this is kind of a one-sided board wipe, which is really powerful. So now we're going to get into our Voltron Wind condition and some of the cards that support that. So this is going to be basically you beefing up a creature's power to swing out at someone and kill them. Typically you want it to be your commander because if you do your commander, you only need to get to 21 power versus if it's any other creature you have, you have to take their life down to 0. So what's cool about that is with commander damage, you know, for those who don't know, I'm sure most of you are aware, but if you take 21 commander damage from a specific commander, you lose the game regardless of how much life you have. So if you're in a life gain deck, sometimes it can be hard to get their life to 0. And so just swinging out with something for 21 commander damage that they can't block, that has trample, all this crazy stuff is great. So the first one we run is a Rogue's Passage. This is just going to help you get through. Regardless of blockers, regardless if you have flying or trample and stuff, sometimes you don't have those. You pay for, and then target creature can't be blocked. So this helps you just end the game, knock out an opponent. We do run a Rancor. Gives the enchanted creature +2 and trample. So the trample is really nice because whether you're on the ground or in the air, just the extra damage is going to trample over. You can inflict to their life, and it's going to count for commander damage. And then when it dies, it goes back to your owner's hand, so it doesn't really ever actually die. So it's hard to get rid of. We run an Ethereal Armor. 1 white gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control, and it also gives it First Strike. So the First Strike is great. There's a lot of cards that you know, maybe you would trade, but now you don't have to because you have the First Strike. Also, anything with Death Touch, if you kill it with First Strike, the Death Touch won't attack you first. So that's nice. But, you know, you basically just build your power by casting enchantments, which is what the deck wants to do. Similar effect, all that glitters gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. Same thing, essentially, just for 1 more mana. We don't run any artifacts except the 1, so, you know, it's going to be more of all enchantments. Here's another new Fallout card that I love, Idolized. When I saw this in the leak, I was like super excited to put it in this deck. So you enchant creature, and the creature has to attack alone, but when it does, it gets +X till end of turn, where X is the number of non-land permanents you control. So that's tokens, that's enchantments, that's creatures, that's everything non-land. As long as you're attacking alone with the commander or whoever, it's going to get a huge boost just till the end of turn, but sometimes that's all you need. So Great card for 2 mana. Then we run a Unquestioned Authority. I guess this could technically be a little protection, but it's not exactly, because there's not a lot of creatures that are going to be just kind of killing your stuff. But when it enters, you draw a card, which is great, but then enchanted creature has protection from creatures. So just all creatures, you have protection from it, which is helpful. But the big thing is they can't block you. If you have protection from creatures, creatures cannot block that card that is protected. So it's essentially a guaranteed way to get through. And then last card, probably the best aura of the deck for beneficial to boost your power and toughness, is Ancestral Mask. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield. So just be mindful, it's all enchantments, not just the ones you control. It's all other enchantments. So just your enchantments alone should be enough. Like, you know, if you have 10 enchantments, that's 20 right there. So now your commander is a 21/21 just with 10 enchantments and this card on the attached to your commander. So huge, gets out of hand real fast. But that's going to be the Voltron. So you're going to try and equip as many of those as you can to your commander, and then you swing out with your commander, you know, and try and do 21 damage as quick as possible. So the second to last section is going to be, I guess we'll say, the other win conditions. And we do that in the form of, well, the first couple are going to be in the form of token generation. So we run a Luminarch Ascension. This is essentially a mana sink. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if you didn't lose life, you may put a quest counter on it, and then you pay 1 and a white to create a 4/4 angel with flying, and you can only activate this ability if you have 4 quest counters on it. So it does take a full battle round and a turn. So 3 opponents, essentially 4 opponents. So 3 opponents and then you, and then 1 more opponent to get to 4, because you can only get the counter on your opponent's turns. And the stipulation is you can't lose life, which the deck does a pretty good job of. If you have a big commander that can block, if you have some of those cards that deter your opponents from attacking you. So there's a lot of times you're not going to lose life. But by playing this card, people might try and make you lose, even if it's just 1 life, so that they don't get the trigger. But, you know, you just cast this on the field, leave it alone, don't count on it right away, and you'll eventually get there, just because people are, you know, you're going to be doing other things, other opponents are going to be doing other things, they might forget, there's a whole bunch of reasons, you'll get the counters. Once you have 4, this is an amazing mana sink, and it's in the right mana that, with white, so your Seraph Sanctum, all the white mana you can generate, you can basically dump into this. Great strategy is to leave up mana and then do it in the opponent's end step right before your turn, so that all those angels now have haste. So you go from having, you know, no board, or, you know, not really a lot of creatures, to 5 angels, that now you have 20 damage on the board and you can swing with it too, right? So the next one we run is the Hallowed Haunting. This isn't a win condition on its own, but if you basically keep casting enchantments after you've cast this, you're going to make spirits. And then those spirits, their power and toughness are equivalent to the number of other spirits you control. So it's a little confusing, but essentially you cast an enchantment, make a spirit, that spirit's a 1/1. Cast another enchantment, make another spirit, both of them are 2/2s. Cast another enchantment, now you have 3 3/3s, then 4 4/4s. And so not only do you get an additional spirit, they all go up in power and toughness each time. So you can have 8 8/8s, right? And so that can get out of hand real quick. And then if you have 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance. So the flying part is great. The vigilance part's even better, I think, because not having to tap, being able to swing out a 1 person and not having to tap, so that the other 2 that are trying to crack back at you, you can block. That's a great card. We run a Sigil of the Empty Throne. Anytime you cast an enchantment, you get a 4/4 angel. This can also get out of hand real quick, especially with some of those auras that I showed you earlier, the 2 that basically help you draw, the Flickering Ward and the Whip Silk. They will basically pay 2, make an angel, right? So you're going to cast it on your commander, make an angel, draw a card, gain a life, return it, cast it on it, make an angel, gain a life, draw a card, and you can just keep doing that if you need to, just to build your board. You know what I mean? So that's really nice. That's why those 2 cards are really good, those draw cards. That also works for this too. So, you know, spamming tokens is a great strategy just for blocking, or you can win the game with it. We run a Genesis Wave because we do make a lot of mana. There is times when we have more mana than we know what to do with, or we don't want to cast every single enchantment because we're being strategic, whatever. But this card can really push you ahead. You know, even if you dump 7, 8 mana in it, you don't have to put a ton of mana into it. But basically what this card does is you pay 3 green and then X, and you reveal the top X cards of your library, and you put any number of permanent cards with converted mana X or less onto the battlefield, put the rest in the graveyard. So the only cards that you're not going to hit are sorceries and instants. The rest are going to come right out. So lands, creatures, enchantments, the one artifact maybe. So let's say X equals 7. So you're casting this for 10 mana. You're going to look at the top 7 cards, and then every card that has 7 or less CMC that's a permanent is going to come right out to the battlefield. So auras, enchantments, all that fun stuff. The highest CMC we run is 6. That's a permanent, which is the almost perfect. So like I said, you don't need to make 30, 50 mana and then cast that, although you'll probably win if you do. But just be mindful, because if you hit, or if you have the 2 cards that draw when enchantments come out, you're going to draw a lot more. So if you have Eidolon Blossoms or Status and Champion already out, or if you hit them with Genesis Wave, and they're going to see all the other enchantments that come out, and you're going to draw a lot. So if you put too much in, you could deck yourself out. It's probably not going to happen, but just be mindful of it. But again, you don't need a ton of mana. You know, you can make a lot of mana, but having X equal 10 or 15, you know, you're going to get a ton of lands, you're going to get a ton of enchantments, and it's just going to put you ahead. You could potentially win from it, but, you know, because you don't know what's going to be there, you can't rely on it, but you just know that it's going to, if it goes off, it's going to get a bunch. And the last card we run is the I Win, Approach of the Second Sun. This is in the deck for 2 reasons. One, I wanted an alternative win condition in case you can't get through with combat damage. Maybe how you're getting shut down. Maybe they've stopped your Voltron strategy. Maybe you don't have the right stuff, or your hand is the gas. You know, you don't have the gas in your hand to keep casting enchantments to make a bunch of tokens. So just, you know, having the ability to be like, I win on the spot. So Approach of the Second Sun, if this was cast from your hand and you've casted another spell named Approach of the Second Sun, you win the game. Otherwise, it goes 7th from the top of your library and you gain 7 life. So essentially, you have to cast this sorcery 2 times. The first time you cast it, you gain 7 life, and then it goes 7th from the top of your deck, and then you're going to cast other stuff to draw through it. So hopefully that's not 7 turns. If you're doing it right, you should be able to do it next turn or even in the same turn. And then you cast it again, and then you just win on the spot when you cast it. So the only bad thing would be is if you played Genesis Wave and then you hit Approach the Second Sun while doing the reveal, because then this will go to the graveyard and there's nothing to get back sorceries. So that's the only time that Approach the Second Sun would be turned off, or it could be countered, obviously. So, but that's pretty much it. There's 3 other cards that I wanted to just mention that I put in the deck. I didn't really have a category for them. They just kind of add value. So the first one is Sigarda's Aid. This gives all your auras flash. So that's great for essentially the targeted removal ones, the ones that you want to cast on your opponent, or just being able to cast things that are beneficial as combat tricks or whatever. Just having instant speed auras are always better than not. So that's great, and it's only 1 mana. Then we run a Calyx, Guided by Fate. I really like this card. It's actually very, very useful. It is legendary, which helps with I like to, sometimes I'll put that Leyline Immersion card that taps for 5 mana. I'll put it on this. But when it comes out, you put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature, or if an enchantment enters the battlefield, you put another +1/+1. So this is a great way to just start putting +1/+1 counters on, you know, your commander, this card itself, other creatures, whatever it may be. But the cool part is whenever an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token that's a copy of non-legendary enchantment you control. You can only do it once per turn, but that's still great. So you get through with combat damage on anything that's enchanted, and you can make a token copy of another enchantment. Obviously, it has to be non-legendary, because if you make a copy, it'll just die to legendary rule anyways. But what's great is you can copy auras. So you have an Ancestral Mask on one thing, and you hit it, you can copy Ancestral Mask and put it on the same creature or put it on another creature. You can, I mean, just think of the amount of, go through this video and just see the amount of non-legendary enchantments that you can make copies of that will double up on effects or whatever. It gets out of hand real quick. So I think it's fair that you can only do it once per turn, because it would be, if I attacked with 3 or 4 enchanted creatures and made 4 copies, that'd be ridiculous. And the last card is Heliad Suncrown. Like I said in the beginning of the video, there is a 2-card combo with Walking Ballista, but we don't run that. Mainly because who wants to win with an artifact in an enchantment deck? But this card is good on its own. It's a 5/5 indestructible enchantment. You're probably going to have the devotion to make it a creature, so it's going to be great. Gives something lifelink. It can give it to itself, or I'm sorry, not itself, because it has to be another target creature. But still, you basically, whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 on target creature or enchantment you control. So again, you're basically buffing the power. And remember, every single time you cast an enchantment based on your commander, you're going to gain a life. So if these two are out, you cast an enchantment, gain a life, put a +1/+1 counter on your commander, draw a card. Cast something else, gain a life, put a +1/+1, draw a card. And you just, it's like a Rudborg, the Goldberg, whatever machine they call it, where you do one thing and it triggers 3 or 4 other things and goes off and does a ton of value for you. So I really like that. So that's pretty much the deck. I know it probably went a little long for some of these cards. They're not, some of them are self-intuitive that, of course, they're in the deck. Why wouldn't they be? But what's cool is there's a lot of builds that you can do in this deck. Like I said, I've transitioned from an Aura enchantment deck. And before, I just had a bunch of enchantments. I would just run as many enchantments as I could. I would win with things like Helix's Pinnacle, which you need 100 mana to dump into that. And then at the end of the day, it's really based on just what you like. I think Sythis is the best enchantment commander out there right now.